For 1.5 million Philippine pesos, most people will opt for a crossover or an SUV rather than a sedan. However, there are some advantages that only a sedan can give. And with the help of the Honda Civic V Turbo mid-spec, I am going to share with you why the sedan should never die. Let's do this! Hello guys, I'm Reagan and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I invite you to click that subscribe button for your regular dose of Philippine automotive content. If you're my subscriber already, well, sit back, relax, click that like button and enjoy the show. Also guys, if you find this video useful, clicking that super thanks button will be highly appreciated. Now guys, now that that's out of the way, well, I've been driving the Honda Civic V Turbo mid-spec variant for nearly a week now. And before this, I was driving the Honda Civic S Turbo base trim for another week. So during that couple of weeks that I've been driving the Honda Civic, the 11th generation Honda Civic, well, I've had a few realizations that made me think that truly a sedan still has, some distinct advantages over an SUV and a crossover. And in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 of those advantages, right now. Now, the first and most obvious advantage of a sedan over a crossover SUV is fuel savings or fuel economy. You see, a sedan is a much lighter vehicle when you compare it to a comparable crossover or SUV. So you're lugging around lesser weight, which translates to, of course, greater fuel savings. Now, that, my friends, is so important nowadays, especially with the prices of gasoline at the pump. Now, this mid-spec Honda Civic V Turbo gave me even much better fuel consumption than the base Civic S, which I'm finding hard to believe. So maybe it's just the traffic situation at that time. You see, I went out for a light city drive. There was some light traffic. I was averaging around 35 kilometers per hour, and I managed to get 14 kilometers per liter. Now, mind you guys, we were 3 passengers in the car, so yes, that is really stellar. Now, on a highway drive, this Honda Civic V Turbo returned to me 20 kilometers per liter. And yes, both scenarios, guys, I've had the eco mode coaching on, which really helps to conserve on your fuel. Another factor that contributes to the fuel economy of a sedan is, of course, the better aerodynamics. You see, a sedan has a lower and sleeker profile, so it can cut through the wind more efficiently than any crossover or SUV. Now, that lower profile and the aerodynamics, and it just makes the sedan more engaging vehicle to drive. And that, my friends, brings me to the second advantage of a sedan over a crossover or SUV. You see, this Honda Civic is really the best choice for a driving enthusiast because you could just feel the driving engagement in this thing much better than a crossover or an SUV. I mean, dude, seriously, it handles better, it has minimal body roll, it feels more agile because of that better aerodynamics and lighter weight. Now, the third advantage of a sedan over a crossover or SUV may seem somewhat controversial, and that is a sedan is safer than an SUV or crossover. Now, there is a popular misconception that an SUV or crossover is safer than a sedan because it's bigger and you've got more metal protecting you and your family. But dude, think about it. Newer and modern cars nowadays are getting 5 stars in the NCAP safety ratings, and the fact that a sedan is lower than an SUV or a crossover means that you have lesser rollover risk. Now, no matter how big or how safe an SUV or crossover may seem, there is still that higher chance that it might figure in a rollover where it will turn turtle versus a comparable sedan. Now, the good news there, guys, is, well, this Honda Civic V Turbo that I'm driving now is not only a 5-star Euro NCAP sedan, so that means it's it's the safest car out there, but it also comes with Honda Sensing, which is a full suite of driver assist aids that will ensure that you and your family will be kept safe at all times. So yes, a sedan is just as safe or can even be safer than a crossover or an SUV. Oh, by the way, guys, I failed to mention on the safety aspect. So another advantage of the sedan over an SUV or crossover is the fact that a sedan is generally safer for pedestrians in case of a frontal collision.
Kid size high into the air. They only
You see, if you in your bad fortune hit a pedestrian crossing the road in an SUV or a crossover, then the chances of that pedestrian surviving is much lower than if you hit that pedestrian with a sedan. You see, the sedan has a lower profile and a longer hood, so yes, that pedestrian might just lie down on your hood and just walk out of that, hit with some minor injuries. But with an SUV or a crossover, well, there is a higher chance that that pedestrian might not survive that unfortunate hit. Now, the fourth advantage of a sedan over an SUV or crossover is, well, quite obviously, a sedan is much easier to drive and park, especially around tight city streets and city parking areas. You see, there's another misconception that an SUV or a crossover will be easier to drive because you have a tall driving position. But guys, you also have to keep in mind that an SUV or a crossover has a much larger body, and as such, you have more blind spots to think of. A sedan with its lower profile and relatively smaller footprint means that you have lesser blind spots, so you could easily maneuver around town, especially when you're driving in tight city streets. Now, because you have lesser blind spots in a sedan, then that also means that you have lesser chances of hitting let's say a cyclist on your blind spot, or let's say hitting a pedestrian at the same blind spot versus an SUV or a crossover. So yeah, when you're driving a large and lumbering SUV or crossover, then you just have to mind all of your blind spots and just be careful when you're driving it, because yeah, you might hit something without meaning to. As for the fifth and final advantage of the sedan over an SUV or crossover, at least for this video, is the fact that a sedan is cheaper or more affordable to run and maintain. You see, aside from the savings at the fuel pump, because a sedan is more fuel efficient than a crossover or SUV, well, the maintenance cost of a sedan is also much lower. Not to mention the fact that if you compare the same platform, sedan and crossover, then the crossover would usually have a higher acquisition price. It's going to be more expensive than a sedan because, of course, you're using more metal, you're using more materials and stuff like that. So that is one huge advantage of a sedan, is that it's more affordable to run and maintain. Now, at the end of the day, guys, if you don't need off-road capability, I mean, if you're always going on roads or highways like what we're going through now, and this is a nice asphalted highway, and let's say you don't need 7 seats. I mean, dude, I've got 3 kids, and they're behind me right now. So 3 kids plus 2 adults at the front, me and my wife, that's just 5 people. So if you don't have more than 3 kids, then you don't need 7 seats. So yes, if you belong to that category, guys, a sedan would fill in your requirements most of the time. I mean, dude, sometimes a sedan is, it's the better choice. It makes better sense than a crossover or let's say an SUV. And when it comes to something as safe as good looking and as engaging to drive as this mid-spec Honda Civic V Turbo? My friends, the answer is really clear. The sedan truly has a distinct advantage over an SUV or a crossover. Anyway guys, thanks for watching.